Okay, so you guys asked me to do a gardening class for you. You have actually some really good spaces there at your facility for putting in both vegetable gardens and fruit trees and stuff. So we went the last time I was there and took a look around, and we think that there's plenty of space for that. The one thing that all vegetables and all fruit trees need is lots of sunshine. So we had to find sunny places. And so this is a series of lessons about gardening, which basically assumes that people know little or nothing about gardening. And it's meant to just give you a basis about how things grow and how you should select areas and watering and insects and things like that. So with that said, I do have a couple of things that I am hoping to get from you. There is a gardener's application. I also am going to ask Paul if he can record the attendance each time.
Sure.
I don't know. Some people have you to just type your name into the chat, and that way you can just print the chat afterwards. That's pretty easy. I don't know how you would like to do it, Paul.
I'm not too familiar with Zoom, but if you could, I'm not sure if everyone knows how to, go in and type their names and to take attendance.
Just click chat at the bottom.
Yes, you just click the chat button, and all you have to do is pops up a little thing, just kind of like Facebook Messenger, and you just type your stuff in there. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So if you'll just type your name into the chat, that way we will have a record of you being here. There's also a gardener's application, which I don't know if I gave it to you or not, Paul. I can't remember what all I sent to you. So if you don't have that, I will email it to you. And if you could pass that out to everyone and have them fill it out and then scan it all as a group and send it back to me.
Okay.
In other words, don't scan one at a time and email it and scan another one, email it. Get them all, run them through the scanner at one time and send them to me, please. Would make my life a whole lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. Yes, ma'am.
We have Brittany Wenteo. She's in the waiting room waiting to get let in.
Let me admit her in. No, that's my fault because I had you switch me back to the host. So all right. Everybody that was in the waiting room should be in at this point. So hopefully if y'all see somebody else, just holler at me and I'll pause momentarily and let them in, okay? As we go along, it's easier for me if you mute your microphone. I don't mind questions. I'll try to stop occasionally, or if you have something to say, you can just feel free to break in. It's just more polite to everybody else if you don't have your microphone on. That way, if your phone rings or you need to answer a call or something like that, it's not an interruption. You can also type questions into the chat if you have questions. So any questions for me at this point? All right, then let me see if I can get this thing going. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see if I can get it going on the first slide here. There we go. So this is from our Growing and Nourishing Healthy Community Gardens program. It's normally targeted at SNAP eligible audiences, but I think the content works just fine for this, so it's not going to be a problem. So they're all different types of community gardens. If you look in the picture here, it's easy to see that this is not a community garden that is located in Corpus Christi, isn't it? You can see in the picture that it looks like it's someplace that is much more lush and green, probably somewhere up in the Northeast. But this is kind of what we aim for when we talk about community gardens or we talk about locations, just trying to get something that's full of beds or full of vegetables and stuff so that we have plenty for people to eat.
It's still on the first slide, I think.
Is it?
That's what I see.
Let's see. Okay, when I click, does it change?
Now it does.
Okay, does it say orientation?
Yep.
Okay, So orientation, our goal today is to basically introduce you to what the 6 lessons are going to be. We're going to talk a little bit about how you figure out where you might locate a garden. We're going to, as we go through these 6 lessons, understand the importance of soil, talk a little bit about planting seeds or using transplants. We're going to talk a little bit about maintaining your garden. We are going to take a look at common diseases, common pests, and we're going to talk a little bit about harvesting, because right now, most of you harvest your vegetables where?
Grocery store.
At HEB. You know, it's funny when we ask kids where do vegetables come from, we're hoping they'll say that they grow on plants or that they come from a vegetable garden. Most of them say HEB. So
That's what I would say.
probably by the 3rd or 4th lesson, we will hopefully give you enough information that you guys can come up with a plan and start going out to your areas and beginning to get those ready for a fall garden. So we want you to be safe as you're doing that. So in order for everyone that's out in that area to be safe, we ask that you keep the area clean, that you respect all others while you're out there working, that you don't bring pets to the garden. I don't think that's going to be an issue for you guys, that there's no smoking, no drinking or drugs in the garden, and that you keep sharp tools put away out of pathways so people don't actually accidentally step on them and harm themselves. We also ask that you watch out for water hoses. Did we identify that there is water access in both of those areas? Paul, you
Yes,
might.
we did. Yes, we did.
Yes,
Paul
we did.
Paul or Letitia, you might actually, oh, I gotta let Shannon in. You might actually tell them the 2 areas that we're talking about, because not everybody went around with us that day.
Letitia, you want to tell?
So we looked at the atrium, the Miyagi Garden area, and we also looked at, if you'll go out the doors nearest the court copier, that grassy area out there. Those are the 2 areas that we're looking at.
I think one of them works great for a kind of a tropical garden. I think that little courtyard's gonna work good for that. And I think that other area is gonna be really good for vegetables and fruit trees and stuff like that. So some other things to look out for. It's best to wear closed-toed shoes. You don't know what might be waiting out there. There could be spiders, there could be snakes, could be scorpions. You always want to protect your feet. So plus, if you do happen to step on a sharp object, you're going to stand a better chance of not being harmed if you have good shoes on versus flip-flops or something like that. And then always remember that it's usually hot out in the garden here in South Texas, and you probably need things such as sunscreen, a hat, or gloves. And then always, like we said, clean up after yourselves and pick up and dispose of the trash. So the first thing we generally talk about is choosing a garden location. We just did that. So we're going to take a look at some pictures, and you guys can feel free to jump in and tell me about some things. Okay. So here's things that we know that plants, that either vegetables or fruits need. They need soil, they need sunlight, and they need water. Who can tell me what our soil in Nueces County or in Corpus Christi is generally like?
Clay.
Has anybody tried to dig a hole in their backyard before?
Clay.
It's hard as a brick, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here we tend to do raised beds. They make our life a lot easier whenever you're able to have something above ground that has soil that's easier to work in. Do we have an issue with sunlight? No. Most time we have plenty of sunlight. In fact, there are parts of the year where we have too much sunlight. Would you believe that the middle of summer is not a growing season in Corpus Christi? In most parts of the country, you plant vegetables in the spring and you grow them until usually they die somewhere at the end of summer or early fall. In Corpus Christi, most things begin to cut out around June. So we're lucky if we get them all the way to June. Tomatoes will not produce here once the temperatures go above 80 at night. They just they require cooler temperatures at night to set fruit. And so once the temperatures start getting hot at night, they stop producing. They still grow, you just don't have any fruits on them. So and our summer temperatures are comparable to places like Phoenix, Arizona. If you factor in our heat indexes, we're probably one of the hottest places in the country. And then, of course, water. We actually have a good source of water here, and we've been very blessed this year to have quite a bit of rainfall. So we're actually doing pretty well on water. By the way, do you guys remember what the process that plants use to collect energy from the sun is called?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Does anybody remember the formula for it? I didn't think so. It's basically taking carbon dioxide, the energy from the sunlight, water, and oxygen, and is combining it into a form and saving it during the day. The plant saves it, and then at night, we go through what are called the dark processes, and the plant is able to transform that energy into a sugar-based form that is usable by the plant for its own processes. There are different kinds of soils, guys. We just said that there is clay. We know that there's also some areas of Nueces County that have sand. So most of us are not fortunate enough to be in that sandy area, but we do have some advantages with clay too. Clay is full of nutrients and it will hold water. If you happen to be in one of the areas that's sandy, it's easy to dig in, but there's not a lot of nutrient content and it dries out super fast. We also have soil called loam. Loam is a mixture usually of sand and silt and clay. Do you guys know what silt is? Silt is I can compare it to the dust that gathers on your furniture in the house. It's a very, very fine, kind of like flour component to soils. Some soils have quite a bit of silt and some soils have very little. Our clay soils have very little of it. So when you have a somewhat equal mixture of sand, silt, and clay, it's called a loam. One of the other things we know about vegetables is that they need plenty of sunlight. You have to have at least 6 hours, preferably 8 hours of sunlight for vegetables to produce at their optimal levels. You can get by sometimes. One of the things that some people do in Corpus Christi to keep their vegetables growing during the summer is put them in containers, and then they move them to a location where they get afternoon shade. And sometimes that works and keeps them producing a little bit longer, but not always. But preferably, you guys are going to be gardening in the late winter, early spring, and you're going to be gardening in the fall. So we're going to need 6 to 8 hours of sunlight at those times. And you can't forget to water regularly. Some people think that you need to water every single day. That is kind of important when you're first trying to establish the plants, but once they're established, it is not the best way to water. Once they're established, the best way to water is to soak them very heavily and then to allow them to dry completely out. That's what works best in this clay soil. So keep that in mind. And how are you going to know if your plants need to be watered or not? Somebody take a guess.
They turn brown.
If they've turned brown, you may have waited too long.
The soil's dry?
You can check the soil. That's one way that you can do it. They
The
actually
plant starts drooping.
Yes, you can look for signs in the plant. Most plants have some signs. Either the leaves begin to curl a little bit, or they get a little bit droopy, or they lose the glossiness or the shininess in their leaves. And that's a pretty good sign that they may be drying out. Now, sometimes that occurs naturally here during the heat of the summer at the peak of the day, just because the plant can't keep up with the amount of transpiration that's occurring. So you do need to make sure that you check the soil to see if it's wet, but also pay attention to the plant. And here in the summer on vegetables, you're probably watering about once every 3 days, every 3 to 4 days. And like I said, we usually suggest that people are done by the time it hits June. Some people just hate to pull up those vegetables and be done with it, but it's actually what's better for you guys. You're just out there pouring water and stuff, and you're not getting much back for your efforts. So Okay, garden location is important. Why is it important? Look at this picture and tell me why garden location is important. What do you see happening in this picture that maybe would make a difference in how well these vegetables do?
Some of them is in the shade and some of them are not.
Right. We don't always have complete control over that, but if we can find sunny places, we're going to be much happier. Okay, I'm going to call out the number to each of these pictures. Tell me what you see that might be wrong. Picture number 1, would this be a good place for vegetables?
No.
What do you say is wrong with it?
It's dry.
It's dry, and if you look at the soil, it does not look like it's very good quality soil, right?
Yeah,
It
looks
is
like sand.
It is sunny, so one of the things that we could do there in that location is just use raised beds, and I think it would be fine. Look at picture number 2. We don't normally have this issue.
Just very saturated with water.
The soil is very saturated with water, that's right. So again, if you have a location that you want to put vegetables, but it stays too wet all the time, you can again use raised beds to help with that. In the middle is picture number 3. It's overgrown. It has shrubs and trees around it. So you would have to clear it out, but you may also have some shade issues or some root issues as you're trying to grow things. Number 4, what's the issue?
No sunlight.
It is just shade. You're right. I don't think you're going to be able to do anything in that situation to make it where you can grow stuff. And then number 5, is that a good location?
Perfect.
It looks great to me. I think that you're going to be successful there. Here's some other things that could be a problem. What would be a problem if the seeds landed in each of these areas?
It would grow over what we planted.
Well, you may not be able to, the seedlings may not be able to get enough sunlight to come up through all of this. You can see in all 3 of these other situations, what are these animals doing?
Eating it.
They're eating. Chickens are notorious, if you don't have them put up, for going through a newly planted garden and scratching all the seeds out and eating them. And then we do have some issues with deer here. We don't have too many issues with rabbits, but occasionally we do. So make sure that you keep that in mind, that you may have to deal with critters. We do have issues with other things, though. We've got raccoons and possums that are very rampant here, and rats as well. Some other things to consider. You need to think about how much room you have. You need to think about how much time you want to spend out there. And you need to know how many people you're trying to feed. If you're just trying to feed your little family, 1 or 2 raised beds is probably more than adequate. If you're trying to feed a whole facility, you probably need quite a bit of space and quite a few beds. And then what's most important is to think about what types of things you and your family like to eat. I would not, go out there and put a whole bunch of things out there just because you have the seeds for them. If when they are ready to be harvested, you're not going to eat them and they just go to waste. There's somebody else. And then the spacing of plants. Look at this watermelon. How much space do you think a watermelon plant needs?
Lots.
Yeah, you might get 3 or 4 or 5 watermelons off of a plant like that, but you're going to need to give a watermelon the entire raised bed, because that's the amount of space it takes up. Similar plants to that would be things like cucumbers and cantaloupes. They're going to take a lot of space. Now, look at this plant. They're beets. You can see plants that grow in a nice, neat little row. They don't require near the amount of space. So, and then sometimes it's important to think about how much a plant will produce. If it only produces just a little bit and it takes up a whole lot of space and you only have a couple of beds, maybe that's not a great plant choice for you. And then think about the cost of vegetables or other things at the store. How expensive are herbs at the grocery store? They can be pretty expensive, and believe it or not, most herbs actually grow pretty easily here at Corpus Christi. You just have to know what time of year to grow them. How many of you like cilantro? Cilantro is super easy to grow here. Most people try to plant it at the wrong time of the year. Cilantro is a cool season plant, and so it needs to go in either in the fall or late winter in order for you to be successful with it. And then only grow things that your family likes. So let's see, just everybody turn on your mics for just a minute, if you can hear me. I just want to hear a yes or a no. Would you eat broccoli?
Yes.
Yes.
We can grow broccoli quite well here in the wintertime. So would you eat any types of greens?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, lima beans,
No.
Nah.
No.
No.
Brussels sprouts.
Negative.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
It,
Yes.
it depends how they're cooked. If you know
Roasted.
how to cook them, they're really good.
You
Cabbage.
roast them are good.
Yes. Yes.
And beets.
No.
No. No.
All right. I actually like beets. Do you know that prior to them moving over to sugarcane, that beets used to be the source for sugar? That's why they call them sugar
Nope.
beets.
What?
Yep. Sugar beets. They processed beets and harvested the sugar from it. Okay. Would you eat strawberries?
Yes.
Yes.
You're going to have to go to Poteet to eat strawberries because we do. Okay. You'll get a few strawberries, but they just don't do that well here. What about carrots?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this about carrots. If you put them in raised beds here, you get great carrots. If you try to grow them in the ground here, the clay soil is too hard and you get these really deformed, ugly little carrots. So put them into your raised beds. They work good here. What about okra?
No.
Yes.
Does it depend how it's fixed?
Yes.
Some people will eat it if it's fried. Some people will eat it if it's slimy. Some people don't care how it's fixed. They're going to eat it. I love okra anyway. Okra is one of the few plants that doesn't care that it's summer. It will keep producing right through the summer here. So it might be a good choice if you guys like okra. What about squash?
Yes.
Most people here like squash. Tomatoes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
peppers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. The most important lesson that I can teach all of you is that you're supposed to have fun. If you're out there and you're not enjoying yourself, you're doing something wrong. Okay. So make sure that you're enjoying yourself and that you're staying safe and you're having a great time. And that is the end of orientation. So do you have questions for me?
No.
Not at the moment.
You can ask me as I go. I'm going to stop this share and I have something to put over here. We have this, guys. Can you see this? No, probably not. I want to put this into, oh well. I'm going to send some stuff to Paul to give out to you. One of them is a vegetable list for Nueces County that tells you all the different vegetables that grow here, what time of the year to put them out, even some specific varieties for you. I think those will be helpful to you. Paul, did I give you the book?
No, I went back and looked at the emails, and the only thing I got was the class schedule.
Okay.
So I need the application. And
Okay. I need to bring you a book. I have a book that's got everything in it. And that way you can pull the handouts and stuff ahead of time and give them to people.
okay.
So I'll get that application to you and I'll also get you the book so that you can hand out these things to them. So probably the next step for you guys after we get done with lesson 1 is try to decide what things you want to put into a fall garden. You're going to need to pick somebody who is pretty good at drawing to kind of sketch out some kind of plan. And you're going to need to discuss if you want to build raised beds or if you want to try to do it in the ground or if you want to do containers, all of those sorts of things. Okay.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes.
All right. And if you have questions along the way, all you have to do is just email me and I'll be more than happy to respond, or you can funnel them through Paul either way.
Okay.
All right. Then I will see you all next Thursday at 12 o'clock. I can start it a little bit later. If you want to start at 12:05 or 12:10, do you need a little bit of time to be able to grab your lunch and stuff, or what?
Yeah, let's.
12:05. 12:05.
12:05, then we'll plan on starting at 12:05. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to barely jump in just before. So I'll probably barely jump in at 12 o'clock because Zoom limits you to 40 minutes and I don't want to run out of time. So don't freak out if I'm not on yet. I'll get on. I'm just trying to use the time as well as I can. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Y'all have a
Thank
great
you
week.
so much.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.